Welcome to Sage Audio. Today, let's look at the top 10 vocal reverb tips. But first, if you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Where to insert vocal reverb. When you insert a reverb plugin on your vocal, it's best if used later in the chain after corrective EQ, compression, saturation de-essing, and optional resonance reduction. Now, the reason being, you want your vocal to be balanced and dynamically controlled prior to adding multiple reflections on top of it. Otherwise, you'll likely exacerbate any issues that the vocal has, as well as make your reverb sound unnatural. So let's take a listen to reverb inserted at the beginning of the chain, then at the end.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
Should vocal reverb be in parallel? Most reverb plugins have a wet-dry or mixed style, meaning almost all reverb is already being used in parallel since the plugin itself is splitting the signal. That said, you might want to insert the reverb on an auxiliary track since that lets you process just the reverb. For example, if I use a reverb plugin on an aux track, I can insert an EQ after the reverb to shape the reflections. So let's take a listen to this example and consider how reverb introduced with a aux track offers some unique advantages.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
If you're enjoying the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free and it helps us bring you more videos. Pre-delay and vocal reverb. Pre-delay is a great way to control the timbre of a vocal's reverb. For example, in most cases, if I use a very short pre-delay, more of the vocal's transient is going to be reverberated. Now this is going to cause a more washed out sound, whereas a longer pre-delay will do the opposite. If you use too long of a pre-delay, the effect will sound unnatural, or if you use a short pre-delay paired with a short reverb setting, it'll also sound unnatural. So let's take a listen to reverb with a longer setting and consider how the pre-delay affects the intelligibility and the transience of the vocal.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
Frequency-specific vocal reverb. This trick is definitely more for creative purposes since the effect is unnatural, but let's try it out nonetheless. Now I'm going to set up 3 sends or buses for my vocal on each respective auxiliary track. I'll insert a linear phase EQ and isolate the lows, mids, and highs. Next, I'll insert my reverb plugins and use different settings on each one. So maybe I'll use room emulation on the lows, chamber on the mids, and maybe a bright plate on the highs. Now it's really up to you what you choose, but this gives you a lot of creative freedom. Let's take a listen.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
Layering various reverb types. Although layering reverb types doesn't create a realistic sound, it's very useful when you're trying to create a full and impressive vocal. Now usually I'll start with some form of room or studio emulation with subtle settings to thicken the vocal with some short reflections and help it blend in with the mix. Then I'll introduce a longer, stylized reverb like a plate, chamber, hall, or something to help the vocal fill out a great amount of space. So let's take a listen and notice how the vocal becomes more impressive.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
Saturation before vocal reverb. Saturation helps control dynamics and make a vocal sound fuller. If you use it before reverb, the plugin is going to have more to draw from, so to speak. In other words, the increased lower level details of the vocal are going to be loud enough to cause reverb reflections. So let's take a listen to reverb alone and then enable saturation before the reverb to hear how it increases the reverb's detail.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
Today's video is brought to you by Musia, a chord and melody generator that makes creating music and learning new chords incredibly easy. The auto chord feature lets you quickly create chords within a specific key, then transpose them if you need to. The chords it generates always have a very musical progression, and the plugin even lets you switch the genre. Also, You can drag and drop the MIDI that Musica creates into your DAW, meaning you aren't limited to any particular sound. Right now they're having a 30-day free trial, so check that out using the link in the description. Parallel compression, vocal reverb. In Chapter 2, we talked about the benefits of using a parallel or aux track for your vocal reverb. Now, one example is using compression after reverb on this track. The reverb is going to reflect and reverberate the vocal as you'd expect, but then the compression controls the reflection's dynamics. Furthermore, with the attack and release, we can control the timbre and ADSR of the reflections. So let's take a listen to it while using smoother compression settings and auto makeup gain to increase the quieter details of the reflections.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
If you're enjoying the channel, use the search box to watch more of our videos. Upward compression on vocal reverb. Let's do the same thing that we did in the last chapter, but instead of downward compression, we'll use upward compression. Now this uses a unique threshold to measure and capture quieter aspects of the signal, compresses it, and then uses automatic makeup gain to bring these details forward. Now when we use this on reverb, all of the reflections that were being masked by the louder ones become easier to hear. Let's take a listen to it.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
How to duck vocal reverb. Let's go back to using downward compression after the reverb, but this time keep the auto makeup gain off. Additionally, let's sidechain an instrument or signal that we want to attenuate the reverb. For example, we could cause the vocal reverb to be attenuated whenever the snare hits. This has both practical and creative applications, but let's take a listen to it being used creatively by using a ghost kick to unrealistically attenuate the reflections.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
How to accurately time vocal reverb. This is something I've gotten wrong in the past. I've said if you want to time your reverb to your BPM, divide 60,000 by the BPM to get a quarter note in milliseconds. However, odds are the reverb tail is going to drop below our threshold of perception before the end of the note. Now with that in mind, let's use this same equation to find a quarter note, but then increase that value by about 5% to keep the level of the reflections audible long enough for us to actually hear the note. So let's take a listen to the difference, and keep in mind that it's going to be subtle, but it might add up if used on multiple instruments.
And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly. And now I'm ready to start, 'cause you make me fly.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.